Hello, everyone. I see streaming in. Good to see you all this morning on our Steward Masterclass, November 3rd, 2025. As you come in this morning, I would love to just see you in the chat and share, what are you coming in with today? What are you coming in with today? What is true for you as we're in the first Monday of November? You've been in the Financial Liberation Challenge. Perhaps you've watched some of the recordings. Perhaps you were with me live. Give me a little update. So good to see so many of your faces, Paula and Jessica and Robbie and Andrea and Katie. So many people I know and love. So good. I love it. Katrina and Connor. Wow, so great. Kimberly and Matthew and Deborah. Ganga Debbie, so good. Matt, wonderful. Surin and Steven and Jason, Kimberly, wonderful. So good to see you all here today. And you are all welcome, of course, to come on video. You don't need to, but it does build a sense of community and connection. And if you prefer to be off video, that's totally fine as well. Matthew, I love that. You are being financially reborn. That's exciting. So exciting. Love to know what that already means for you. And Andrea, I love that you are working through the numbers, and it feels like a treasure hunt to find everything regarding taxes and insurances. And I love the idea of like really thinking, right? Because we can oftentimes think about like, oh, it's such a drag. All I need to do, it's such a drag. Well, what happens if instead of bringing that energy to it, you bring this idea of a treasure hunt? I am going on a treasure hunt. I am going on a treasure hunt. How does that change what you bring to it? How does that change what you bring to it? How does it just have everything feel so good when you think about it that way? It's a treasure hunt. And today, with stewardship, we are just in the right place for that. So, Laura, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and complete the audio. And thank you, because we were definitely born for this. And for those of you that are wondering, who is that amazing artist? That is my dear friend Kyra Maestra. You can find her under Maestra on Spotify. She's amazing. Every song is just like, oh, yeah. And I will say, if you are not yet using music to up-level your consciousness, I really want to encourage you to do that. To really look at, what are you listening to? What are you listening to? I had the first experience of this probably in one of the hardest years of my life, 2014, 15. I was living with a partner who was not working outside the house, and he spent all day, every day working on music in the house, and he would play the music. And I recognize now that he was in my life specifically to up-level my consciousness with the music that he was creating. Crazy enough, the music that he was creating never got released. Right before he was about to release it, it all got erased off of his computer. It was really just for me. It was a gift for me to up-level my consciousness. And then I realized, oh, music can really up-level your consciousness in a big way. So that one is Maestra. I put that here in the chat. And then her first name is Kyra. I hope one day she'll just go by Kyra, because that seems more appropriate to me. But for now, she is Maestra. And I put that in the chat. And then there's a couple others that you may want to listen to. Fia is a great one. I've put her name in the chat. Adam Roa is amazing. For any of you that have attended my practical magic workshops, you have gotten to hear all of these artists, but those are three really great ones for really up leveling your consciousness anytime you realize like I'm not like at the top of my game. Great. Just put on one of their pieces of music and it will give you a big shift. So, welcome back to our journey to financial liberation in this financial liberation challenge. You have learned so far how to liberate your awareness, to see the old patterns, to start to recognize the extractive systems that we live within, both externally and internally, because it's with awareness that we can have choice. It's with awareness that we can have choice. And so when you start to see the extractive systems internally and externally, and you begin to wake up to them, you can change them because you're that powerful. And we are really all that powerful. And it's only when we don't see, right? When the reason that we're called Eyes Wide Open Collective is because it is about seeing. Because I know that when you see, you will make new choices. You'll make new choices when you see. And so much of what we're doing here together is coming to awareness. So we brought you to awareness around these old patterns about the extractive systems. Perhaps you're starting to see new things. And if there is anything new that you are beginning to see, I'd love to hear that in the chat. Come on into the chat and let me know, what is a new thing? What is something that you are seeing now in your own life and your own ways of being that perhaps you were not seeing 2 weeks ago? It was just running as a pattern, either internally or externally, and you're seeing it now. Go ahead and let me know that. And you have learned or begun to get the first ideas of new ways to generate, to create a cash generating machine that aligns with your values. And to do that by focusing first on earning your minimum to thrive, first and foremost, in alignment with your values before you add in any more complexity. And then once you've got that dialed in, now you can add in additional revenue streams or think about investing beyond that. But what we want you to remember is that you are your number one investment. And you want to invest in that which can never be taken away from you. And that is your ability to generate what you need in alignment with your values through your own use of time, energy, and attention. That can't be taken from you. What else cannot be taken from you? When you invest in creativity, community, and resourcefulness, those are investments that can never be taken from you. Your investments in creativity, community, and resourcefulness can never be taken away from you. Money in the bank, that can be taken. Real estate, that could be taken. But creativity, community, resourcefulness, your ability to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give can never be taken. The skills that you have, never be taken. So that is where your first investments need to go. Your first investments need to go into increasing the value of what you bring into the world. And with that, we are going to step into the part of the spiral path that is stewardship of what you have. Stewardship of what you have, so that life can trust you with more. So that life can trust you with more. And how does life operate? Well, it operates through us, right? It operates through us. It operates through our minds. What do we think? What meaning do we make of those thoughts? What are the words that we speak? What do we do with our hands? How do we use these bodies as the tools they are? What are we actually in service to? This is how life operates through us. And we are the stewards of all of that. And so stewardship is the moment where you grow up, where you grow up, where you stand fully in your adult and recognize just how powerful you are. And it hasn't happened for most of us. It hasn't happened for most of us, no matter how old we are. In so many ways, we're still babies or adolescents or teenagers when it comes to stewardship. Because nobody taught us. So we steward as if we're never going to be able to make more. We steward as if it's not sexy, it's boring. We steward as if we could just keep putting it off. We steward as if, oh, well, I'm just going to focus on making more. I don't really need to steward what I have well. I'll just make more. I'll just make more. I'll just make more. Not stewardship. That's a form of money dysmorphia. Not to say that you can't make more. It's fantastic to make more when you're stewarding what you have well, because otherwise you're just contributing to the extractive reality, the reality of consumption, the reality of not sustainable. And so stewardship is also the moment that we grow up financially. And it is just so sexy to steward your resources well. It feels good. You can trust yourself. And it is also extremely sacred. I do believe that ultimately stewardship of your resources is how you create true success. It's how you feel really good. And so becoming a wise steward begins really once you're generating what you need in alignment with your values. Because remember, we're on a spiral path. We're on a spiral path. And if you're not generating what you need in alignment with your values, it's very difficult to steward well because you're actually in scarcity. You're actually in scarcity. And if you're actually in scarcity, very likely the only thing that you can focus on is meeting your base level needs. And that's good. You should meet your base level needs. That's very important for you to meet your base level needs. And you should use everything that you have, all of your time, energy, and attention to meet your base level needs until you're meeting your base level needs, and not focus on stewardship, which is a higher order of consciousness. And if you're not meeting your base level needs, what are you stewarding? And you need to be using your time, energy, and attention to focus on meeting your base level needs. But once you are meeting your base level needs, before you think about generating more, you want to learn to steward what you have. You want to learn to steward what you have and become a wise steward of what you have. Because if you can't care for what you already have, well, who's going to entrust you with more? Maybe life will, but it'll just get taken. It'll just get taken, or you'll give it away, or you'll let it go, or you'll lose it, or you'll get scammed out of it, right? Because you're not being a good steward. You're not being a good steward. Okay, and so we want you to know, what does it actually mean to steward well? Because that's part of why we haven't stewarded well. We actually haven't known what it means. Who taught you? Who taught you? So actually, just let's take a moment right now and let's do a little travel into history and connect with your ancestors for just a moment. Just close your eyes now for a moment. And I want you to just call in your ancestors, welcome them here. Thank you, ancestors. Yesterday was Day of the Dead. And whether you celebrated or not, or even knew that it was Day of the Dead, we can honor our ancestors now by thanking them for what they did do to steward the resources that they did have in order for us to be here now. In order for us to be here now, because had they not had they not stewarded in some way, well, we would not be here, right? So let's just thank them. Let's just thank them for that and know that they're celebrating. They're so celebrating. They're so celebrating you right now for being here. So just notice that. Feel their pats on your back, feel their cheers. Know that they are there. Even if you think that this is really woo or like whatever, just do it anyway because it's truly honoring. It's truly honoring to the parts of you that you've inherited. And just breathe into that for a moment. And then what I want you to do is just look at where you didn't learn to steward well, where you did not learn to steward well. Maybe your parents didn't have time. Maybe they didn't know how to steward well. Maybe they didn't talk to you about stewardship. Maybe your parents were deeply under-resourced. Maybe your parents were extremely over-resourced, but caught up in their own forms of mental illness in various ways. Maybe they were sick health-wise, or maybe they did help you to steward or teach you to steward really well, and you want to actually acknowledge that they actually did a really great job, and you're so grateful for that. So just feel into whatever is true about what you inherited around the idea of stewarding. Breathe into that. And then I want you to just come back here and just note down. Note down whatever came forward for you right now. Whatever came forward for you around perhaps any karmic lessons that are yours to either expand upon or heal. Expand upon or heal. So for example, Kimberly, that's so wonderful that your parents were good stewards. Great. How do you want to actually expand upon that and take that forward? And so you can share that. And then, for example, if there's anything that needs to be healed, any places that they like really messed up, right? So yeah, so if you came from abject poverty, there might be some things to be forgiven, some things to be healed there, right? Okay, so what we want to do is harvest those lessons and look at what do we want to carry on and what do we want to heal. So, and this is great, Natalie. I'm so glad that you said what you just said because I actually want to give you a reframe on that. So Natalie said, my parents were and are terrible stewards. My dad particularly made and lost 3 fortunes. So he was both a terrible steward and a great one in some ways, right? Because what can you learn from the fortunes that he made? So we want the both and. We don't want to demonize 100%, and we don't want to pedestal 100%. So for example, my father was a con artist. That's my karma to heal. I receive that as something to be healed through me and to always be looking with very deep diligence at whether I am giving more than I'm taking. Am I giving more than I'm taking? Because my dad took more than he gave because he thought he needed to. So that's that, but there's so much also to pedestal about him, right? Not just demonize him. I learned how to sell because of him. I learned how to sell because of him. So I want to both honor him. Thank you, thank you, thank you for teaching me how to sell, which comes so difficult to most people, while ensuring that I'm using those skills of sales to give more than I take always. That's how I heal the karma. So, what is yours to heal and what can you thank them for? Right? So, Kimberly, in your case, where your parents were great stewards, great. What are you going to carry on in their great stewardship? But, Kimberly, how did they not pass? What did they not pass on to you in that? They were great stewards, but you don't think that you're a good steward of what you have. Okay, great. So, what are you going to receive from your parents that you're going to carry on in service to being a great steward? And what did they miss in that you didn't become a good steward yet? You're on your way yet. What did they miss? Okay. So it's very critically important that we can look back as part of our stewardship to really identify what is ours to do so that we are not unconsciously carrying on patterns that are here to be healed through you. This is why you were born. And I personally believe that this is why you chose to be born to the people that you were. That's my personal belief. You don't need to take that on if you don't want to, but it's really served me so well to take on that idea of choice. Gosh, that's been empowering. In my depths of despair, when I just did not want to go on, when I could remember that I chose to be born through the exact circumstances that I was and that they were all here for me, I was able to shift from that despair to a lifeline of like, okay. Let me just remember why. Okay, why did I choose this? Oh, so I could heal it inside of myself. And then I was able to get to a place not just of forgiving them, not just forgiving my parents, but actually being deeply grateful for everything that they experienced, that I got to shift and change, right? And for many of you, so Ganga Devi, I love this so much. Really, Ganga Devi is sharing like the ultimate practice here in the chat. A few months ago, I hand mapped out on a huge piece of paper all the money lessons from my parents and my grandparents that I'm holding and decided what I'm keeping and what I'm composting. Right? Would be like an amazing thing for you to spend a couple hours over the weekend doing. What a gift. So we really need to recognize that regardless of what happened in the past, you are the steward now. You are the steward now, and you get to create a new future reality with the resources that you have. And that requires forgiving yourself for any places that you have made mistakes in the past. Any places that you have made mistakes in the past, it's critical to harvest those lessons too and write them down so that you can tell the part of you that is holding on to them because you're afraid you're going to do it again, which will of course create you doing it again. Let me just make sure you all really got that. That if you do not harvest the lessons, your internal system will keep you making the same mistakes again and again. Because the part of you that just wants you to get it thinks that you need to make the same mistake again. But if you intentionally harvest the lesson, Then what you're able to do is hold your hand on your heart and your belly and tell the part of you that is afraid you're going to make the mistake again and will actually sabotage you so that you do make the mistake again, that you got it. You don't need to make that mistake again. I got it. I got the lesson. We're not going to do it again because I got the lesson. It was this practice that allowed me to make 8 years of mistakes, pretty significant mistakes, and then go to my mother and ask her to invest in me in 2017. Because had I not harvested the lessons and really knew that I got the lessons and I was not going to make the same mistakes, I'd make other mistakes for sure. I'm still making mistakes to this day. Mistakes is how we learn. But wasn't going to have to repeat the same mistakes again and again. And it was only by knowing that I was able to go to my mother in 2017 and say, Mom, I need you to invest in me. Now, I want to be very, very clear. Some of you have already heard this story, but it's critical for all of you who have not heard it to hear it, and some of you to hear it again, because you may need to have a similar conversation with somebody in your life who needs to invest in you, who you need to invest in you. It was 2017, and it might have been 2016, but it was in that time frame, and I was at the real rock bottom. The real rock bottom probably, well, I was coming out of the rock bottom. I was coming out of the rock bottom. And by the way, rock bottom is an expression of money dysmorphia. We're going to talk next in 2 weeks after our VIP week. We're going to talk in 2 weeks about money dysmorphia. And there's 4 expressions, and one of them is rock bottom, right? So you might just like constantly be at rock bottom. And if you're constantly at rock bottom, it might be because you didn't harvest your lessons. And so, yeah, Jason, let me just give you a very clear practice for harvesting your lessons. When you say, I know what I did wrong, I think, but then you haven't actually taken the time to write them out. So I want you to write them out. Here's the mistakes I've made. Here's the lessons I've learned from those mistakes. Now, I did this in the context of getting ready to ask my mom to invest in me. I also did it with a coach, and this is how I really first got it. I worked with this, you guys, I've done a lot of things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, really like doing the deep excavative work. And so I encourage you may want to look at some of these modalities: NLP, getting coaching, getting feedback, getting direct reflection, working directly with somebody who could see something that I couldn't because they weren't in my brain. Right. And so one of the things that one of these coaches did that I worked with is he helped me to identify the belief that I was having and see it like flying over my head, and then like pull down the lesson from it and somatically, using my mind, somatically get the lesson anchored in so that I could let go of the self-sabotaging pattern that kept repeating the mistake again and again, so that I would get the lesson. But you could really just do it in writing. Here's the mistake I made. Here's the lesson I learned. I don't need to make this mistake again. Here's the mistake I made. Here's the lesson I learned. I don't need to make this mistake again. You could just literally do that in your notebook. Okay? That will go a long way. So it was 2017, and I was at this place financially where I had ruined my credit score. I had been through bankruptcy. I had begun rebuilding, right? Because I had filed the bankruptcy in 2012, end of 2012. So then I came back out into the world in 2013. And I had spent that year of 2011 and 2012, because it was August to August when I moved to the farm and then when I filed bankruptcy, I'd spent that year only doing what I would do for free because I knew I was going to go through the bankruptcy, so I could only make 5,000 a month. And it really created this reset for me in terms of stewardship. Because now I hadn't stewarded what I'd had before, right? I'd already built $2 million businesses, but I wasn't stewarding those resources well. I didn't know how to look at my financials. I didn't know how to talk to my CPA. And for those of you that read my book that I am writing right now, Lifted, from bankruptcy to eight figures, you're going to like read all of the mistakes that I made and what I learned from them. And I didn't know how to steward resources. I knew how to make money. But I knew that knowing how to make money was not sufficient. I didn't know that the answer was stewardship. So basically, the way that I understand life at this point is that life wants you to liberate, and you'll either make a choice or you'll be forced. So when we go into the transform part of which can also be called detach, when we go into detach, transform, which is really this transformational dilemma, which will be in 2 weeks, you're going to see how you can choose as you come around to your next turn of the wheel, you can choose to expand your capacity to generate more and be called forward to generate more, and then be given the resources to generate more, or you can shrink and have everything taken from you. And that usually happens by force. How many of you have had a forced liberation where everything's been taken from you? It didn't feel like liberation, probably. It felt like everything's been taken from you. Right? Natalie, it makes sense. Of course, you've had that. Your dad did it 3 times. So you're going to repeat the patterns. You're going to repeat the patterns. What a gift. Thank you that you've already gotten through that one time at least. Yeah. So we can say, okay, life, I don't want that to happen again. Right? I don't want that to happen again. So the next time I come around the wheel and I'm given the opportunity to choose, I am going to choose. I'm going to choose actually to expand my capacity. And again, we'll talk next week about how that occurred for me. But first, I needed to learn how to steward well. Because if I had not learned how to steward well, I would not have been able to choose to expand my capacity. I wouldn't have trusted myself. I wouldn't have trusted myself. And so stewardship, I think, is where many of us get stuck because we haven't harvested the lessons. And so when I came out of the bankruptcy in 2013, and I'm living my minimum to thrive reality, I come off the farm, I move into a 3-bedroom condo in like a college area with my 2 kids, their dad, and my partner at the time, because I was divorced from their dad, but he still lived with me. So my son and his dad shared a bedroom. My daughter had her own room because she was starting to get to be a teenager, and that felt important. And then my partner at the time, his name was Craig, and I shared a room. And we're all living in this 3-bedroom, like college apartment, right? 2013. That was minimum to thrive, though, you know? And it was actually, in so many ways, it was great. When we were ready to move out of that house, I remember like feeling sad. You know, it was really funny. I remember feeling sad of like, gosh, this was so cozy. It was so cozy here. Whenever we came home, we were all just in the same room, and it was so nice. And now we're gonna go into this place where there's like we could be in multiple rooms. We won't all be together ever, anymore like that. It was so cozy. So I really learned to appreciate it. And so then we move into the next place, and it's a little bit bigger, and I begin to earn money again, but I did not learn to steward well. In fact, because I didn't know that that was what I needed to think about. I didn't know I was thinking about stewardship. And I didn't know that's what I needed to be thinking about. I thought that I just needed to learn how to make money again. But the truth was, I always knew how to make money. That had never been the issue. So I start making money again, and then I bring in these partners to work with me. Some of you might remember Akiva and Amrita. This is 2015, 14, really 13, 14 timeframe. And I said to them, okay, Kiva and Amrita, you guys are going to be better at money than me. I'm not good at money. I'm good at making money. So I'll just focus on making the money and you take care of the money. And I know that I just need to earn 10K a month. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what our relationship is going to be is I just need to earn the 10K a month. You keep the rest and you take care of it. How's that? Is that a good deal? Are you guys willing to be my partners on that basis? You just do it. And they agreed. They're like, okay, first 10K goes to you, we'll keep the rest. But really, I was just perpetuating a past pattern of being bad with money, of not building the systems that needed to be built in order to be good with money, in order to be looking at what was needed. So for those of you that are in Eyes Wide Open, the mentorship, you have access to the Lift program. And everything that I created around stewarding my resources well is in the financial module of Lift and also in the Enough course. Some of you have the Enough course and some of it is in the Enough course, but it's all in the financial module of Lift. And ultimately, what I realized when Kiva and Amrita walked out on me, because they needed to in order for me to have the wake-up call, right? So they're taking care of the money. I'm making the money. They're taking care of the money. They're, helping serve the clients. But that was such a way I was operating in blindness. And then I was getting caught off guard about financial things that were happening. For example, we ran a Facebook ads campaign, and because something was reported incorrectly, we ended up scaling an ads campaign that ended up costing us 20K. And I was pissed. I was really pissed. And they did not like the way that I got pissed. Fair enough. But I thought my anger was justified. All of that led to them leaving me overnight, forced, right? I felt like it was outside of my control. They left me, right? In my victimized reality, they left me. They stuck me with an $86,000 refund I needed to deliver on. $86,000 that of a program we had sold to somebody that I could not deliver on my own, and we needed to refund. I did not have $86,000. 250 people I needed to deliver a course to. A daughter I was trying to raise as a teenager who was going off the rails. Right? From my victimized reality, from my disempowered self, all I could see is how they had hurt me. But now I can look back on it and I can see what a gift that they did what they did. Because it was the only way for me to get a wake-up call and realize I need to steward my resources. I need to learn how to take care of what I have. I need to build systems so that I can be the CEO. This is actually mine to do. This is my responsibility as the leader. No wonder these partners didn't stay with me. I was not showing up in my leadership. No wonder we had a $20,000 screw up. I was not in my leadership. So it would have been very easy for me to blame them and make that the reason. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't deliver on this $86,000 thing that we sold you because my partners left me overnight. Sorry, I don't need to pay that back. Sorry. No, this was my responsibility. Even if they weren't there to deliver on it, if I couldn't deliver on it alone, I needed to find a way to pay that money back. Period. End of story. This is part of my stewardship. Period. End of story. So one of the things that I want you all to do actually right now is I want you to consider where in your stewardship you may be disempowered or victimized. Not because somebody did something to you. Somebody has done something to all of us. Of course, we're living in a 3D reality. So people are going to do really crappy things to us. But how do we meet that? How do we meet that? Do we meet that in the collapse of victimization that makes sense, that everybody can get on board with? Oh, of course you weren't able to. Oh, of course you weren't. Oh, of course you couldn't. Oh, of course, of course, of course. Because it all makes sense, especially when we're looking for the reflection back of why it wasn't our fault, why it wasn't our responsibility, why we couldn't. And I just want to change that for you right now and recognize that no matter how bad it was, because it was bad for all of us in various ways, in different ways, no matter how bad it was, how you meet it is what determines what happens next. And it's never too late. I promise you, I had in my mind so many times, it's too late. It's too late. I messed it all up. It's too late. It's too late. And every time I noticed that, I needed to stop and wake up and remember it's never too late. You can change it right now. It's going to take something. It's going to take something. A lot. It's going to take a lot. Depending on how far down you've gone in the victimization, in the disempowerment. It could take a lot. And it's worth it. It's so freaking worth it, because when you turn that around and you become the person that, and this happens through stewardship, and you become the person that you're looking back on and you're going like, oh my God, I can't even believe myself. I'm amazing. Oh my God, if I can make it through that, anybody can make it through anything. Anything. And now you get to be a role model. And now you get to be a beacon of light. And now you get to be a beacon of hope. Okay? So, becoming a wise steward means harvesting those lessons, forgiving yourself, having compassion for yourself, but not letting yourself off the hook. So this really came to a head in 2017 where I was like, I needed money. I needed money. I needed to be able to rebuild. I needed to not have to have two businesses, right? Because I had a new law business model and I had Eyes Wide Open, and it was 2016. And yeah, I had paid back that $86,000 refund. I earned the money and I paid it back. And I delivered on the Money Map course to 250 people. And I did that even without my partners. Lara and Kevin, thank you for showing up for me during that time. And then I realized I can't have two businesses. But I didn't want to let go of Eyes Wide Open in a way that would make it so it could never come back again. But I knew I needed to focus on new law business model. And I knew I was going to need money to keep Eyes Wide Open alive. And I didn't know where to get the money. I couldn't work anymore. I was already working as much as I could. And I didn't have a good credit score. So I realized I needed credit. Now, think about how scary that was. I had already filed bankruptcy. And now I'm realizing I need credit. So in order to be a yes to utilizing credit again, I needed to harvest all of the lessons that I learned the first time around while not demonizing myself and telling, or even demonizing credit and saying, oh, credit's bad. Credit is not bad. Credit is amazing. Credit is access to resources. It's all just zeros and ones, y'all. Money, credit, debt, crypto, dollars. It's all zeros and ones. It's all the same zeros and ones. We give it the meaning that it has. So I was able to recognize, oh, right, okay, credit is zeros and ones. I need more zeros and ones. So I realized that the scariest thing that I was going to need to do was ask my mom to invest in me. Now, let me be clear. My mom is not a wealthy woman financially. And my mom and I had a very difficult relationship. My mom only had, so she was an art teacher for 30 years. When my dad and her got divorced, he did not support her. So she was supporting my sister and I as they got divorced when I was 14. My sister was 11. My dad did not show up for her, did not support her. She got like a very tiny inheritance from her mom, but really not financially well off, art teacher, you know? And she did manage to save about $200,000 in retirement. And she was about 70 at this time, maybe 68, 69, maybe 70. And what I knew that she had is a good credit score. She had a good credit score. She had preserved that credit score her whole life. And she was so proud of her credit score. It was like an 800. And it occurred to me like, oh my God, I'm going to need to ask my mom to invest in me with her credit score. I just don't see, there's nowhere else for me to go. And I need to rebuild, and I need resources in order to rebuild. And before I could do that, before I could go to my mom and ask her to invest in me using her credit score, I needed to go through a whole process of harvesting the lessons because I knew that she was going to say no. And she was right to say no because I was not trustworthy until I did this work. I was not trustworthy until I harvested the lessons, until I actually got them to the level of I'm not going to make these same mistakes again, until I knew it in my soul because I was not going to let myself make the same mistakes again because I had harvested the lessons. And then I had created the systems that were necessary for me to not make the same mistakes again, like a cash flow forecast. And I actually learned how to read a spreadsheet and working with a CFO and actually learning what to do on the calls with the CFO and working with my bookkeeping team. All things I had resisted before. And tracking the use of my credit in a way where I wasn't beating myself up for the use of the credit, but I was doing it intentionally and I was maximizing 0% credit. And I was doing it all very systematically, logically. And I was able to go to her as a result and say, and you'll watch this, there's a video in school of me asking my mom to invest in me. And what you're going to hear in that video is at first she says no. And then she says yes. And you're going to hear what I said to her. You're not going to hear me harvest the lessons with her because for whatever reason, when my editor edited it, he edited that part out. But what I want you to know is I did not go to her until I had already faced the reality of the rightness of her no. so that I didn't need to defend when I got her no, or I didn't need to collapse in the face of her no. I could actually agree with her and say, you are totally right. You should not invest in me. You're right. And here's why you actually should. Because I get it. I've made these mistakes, and here's the lessons I've learned. And here's why I'm still your best investment. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't actually look at why I was her best investment. And this is the same whether you're going to the bank or you're going to a family member or you're going to a friend. If you are going to ask for investment, you need to be prepared for the no fully and why their no would actually be a good idea and why they should invest in you anyway. Not from like some false security place of like posturing, but because it's actually what's good for them. Because you're a good bet. Because what you're doing is really valuable. Right? So if you can't care for what you already have, you will not be entrusted with more. But when you can care for what you already have, when you're ready for more, it will be there and available for you, and you will feel ready to claim it. There's so much money out there. So much money out there. Your ability to reach out and receive it and say yes to it comes down to how you feel about your stewardship of what you have. And so this requires you to identify any of the places that you don't trust yourself. Because when you do, you can call it all in. And so stewardship is where you stop leaking energy and you start compounding power. So the baseline practices of stewardship are to know what you have. This is critical. Knowing what you have is critical. So one of the resources that we're giving you is called the Wealth, Credit, and Liquidity Assessment. And this is a tool for you to really just look at what you have. Just to look at what you have. It's why our personal family lawyer firm leaders, when they're working with their clients in the life and legacy planning process, begin with a family wealth inventory. Because how can we make good choices about what we have for life and legacy when we don't know what we have? So we start with that. What do you have? And in the wealth, credit, and liquidity assessment, you're not just looking at your financial resources, you're looking at your non-renewable resources of time, energy, and attention as well. Critically important. Then you're going to map what you need. You're going to map what you need. We've already talked about that. And then you are going to create a plan to care for what you have and step by step move from what you need to what you want. And that will be stewardship. So let's just look for a moment about what you are stewarding. What are you stewarding? You are stewarding time, energy, attention, and money. We call these your team resources. Time, energy, attention, and money. Your team resources. Remember that time, energy, and attention are non-renewable. Money is infinitely renewable when you know how to use your time, energy, and attention. See the Generate Masterclass. And let's just look at each of time, energy, and attention. And by the way, one of the reasons that we run every single week in our mentorship, Plan Your Week, is because time and how you use your calendar is of critical importance. You never need to worry about having what you need when you've mapped your cash flow forecast and your calendar matches it. We call it a cash flow forecast and a calendar to match. It's one of the tools of practical magic. A cash flow forecast and a calendar to match. And when you can have a cash flow forecast and a calendar to match, Wow, now you just show up every day doing the things that you need to do to generate what you need to create. So your calendar is the number one tool of time management. And some of you have already started time tracking, so you can see, eyes wide open, where your resources are going, where your time is going, because some of you don't know. You don't know where your time is going. You just get to the end of the day and you think, oh my God, did I accomplish anything today? Well, I'm going to just celebrate you because you accomplished being here today, and that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. But if you had everything on your calendar, you would know, and you would be moving forward the things that you didn't get done and know that they will get done. Because if it's on your calendar, it happens because your word is everything, and you've got your calendar to support you. Then energy and attention. Energy and attention are the hidden resources that get you access to all the time and money. And they're hidden because they're internal. I cannot look at the use of your energy and attention. I can look at your calendar and I can look at your bank account and I can tell you what matters to you. If you were to give me access to your calendar right now, if you were to give me access to your bank account right now, I would tell you what your values are. I would tell you what actually matters to you. But I can't do that with your energy and attention. Only you know what's happening inside. Only you know where you're directing your attention. Only you know what is the energy pattern of the thoughts that you think. So, which of these resources are you leaking right now? And do you want to put the most intention on shifting? Better relationship with your time, energy, attention, or money? If you had to select one of your team resources to focus on, what would you focus on? Okay, great. Well, here's the good news. They're all linked. Yeah, Brian, love. They're all linked. And you can start through any one of the doorways. You could start through any one of the doorways just by noticing. Just by noticing. Yeah, Tani, I love this question. What is the difference between time and attention? Because isn't attention just about what we spend our time on? Well, there's layers. So attention is what you spend your time on, but then there's the background. So time, what you spend your time on is kind of at the foreground, right? Like you're on this call right now. That's how you're spending your time. But where's your attention? Is it right here? If so, then there's a congruence. Or is there an attention leak? Right? Is there an attention leak where your attention is actually somewhere else? And if so, where is it? What is it on? What's going on there in the background with your attention? When you go on social media and start scrolling, are you doing that because it is the time of day that you marked off to do it? Or are you doing it because it's an attention leak? So I'm not, for example, saying don't spend time on social media. I love it. I love social media and I love my scroll. I just want it to be intentional. And by the way, many people say don't multitask. I'm a big fan of multitasking if it's good for you. If you're really good at it, then do it. I'm really good at it. Some people are not. Know yourself, right? So I like to think of it as in the permaculture context of function stacking. So Angel, for example, is function stacking. She's folding laundry and on this call listening because she can do both. She can fold laundry and listen to this call. Some of you cannot. You got to know yourself. In order to get something from this call, do I actually need to be here and take notes the whole time? you know, I know how my brain works. So knowing how your brain works is very important, right? So Carissa, you're saying I have to be doing two or three things at once. Knowing how your brain works is very valuable. When I was in law school, my entire law school, I'm studying with the TV on in the background because I need that. I need multiple inputs in order to focus. That's just me. Some of you, if you had that, would not be able to focus. So you have to know yourself. That's part of stewarding the resource of you. And it doesn't make sense to beat yourself up for any of it. Just whatever is true is important because then you work with yourself. You are a resource to steward. You are a resource to steward. You know, at one point I recognized, oh my gosh, this body, this is like my number one tool. I better learn how to use this tool really well. And I don't think I know how to use this tool of my body because I didn't even know how to listen to my body. Right? Many of us, especially us left brain logical types, we're like living from the neck up. We only have the tool of our mind, which is like using a quarter of our resources, maybe even a tenth. Our body has the answers, right? So you want to use the tools you have and know what really works for you. So that's the stewardship of your time, energy, attention, and money. For those of you that needed to hop off at the top of the hour, we have passed that now. Go ahead and calendar yourself another hour at some point later in the week to come back to this recording before you hop off. Okay. So let's look at the next piece of stewarding your resources, and this is stewarding your structures. So we need to steward our structures with what I call LIFT, legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems. Legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems. This is the scaffolding of stewardship. And again, many of us have not learned how to scaffold, or we thought that these things don't apply to us, or we thought they were too difficult, or we thought they weren't necessary, or we thought that's for other people and that's not for me, or we thought I don't have enough money, or we thought I need to focus on other things, or we thought I'll just deal with the problems when they come, which is generally actually a pretty good thing. But there are some problems that are worth facing before they arise. And your LIFT, your legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems, and having these legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems set up to serve you is a key part of stewardship. So all of you, every single one of you should have a business entity. And start to look at, how can I use a business entity, even if I'm an employee? How can I use a business entity to create a little vehicle to generate cash or zeros and ones that can get me access to resources, that can save me money on my taxes? So, Brian, I see you saying that sole proprietorships are great and much less paperwork, and that might be true. And there's a reason to create a business entity, a formal business entity, and not use a sole proprietorship. And it is more complicated and it does require more paperwork. But the benefit of doing that is that you've now created something that is not you, that has the benefit of asset protection, that has the benefit of less risk of audit, that has the benefit of being able to save you money on your taxes, that has the benefit of you really thinking of yourself as a business owner. As a business owner. And there's something about thinking of yourself as a business owner, I think, as a CEO. And really taking the stewardship of these resources seriously from the lens of, if I'm a CEO of my ecosystem, what sort of containment do I want to put around it? So when I was a sole proprietorship, because I didn't know how to run a business entity, I used a sole proprietorship first three, really. I went out on my own in 2003, August of 03, and I didn't actually start using my corporate entity until 2006. And the reason for that was that my CPA told me I didn't need to. She said, well, you're a lawyer, so you're not going to have liability protection, and it's not going to save you any money on your taxes. So you should just be a sole proprietor. Okay, I didn't know any better. Yes, I had been an estate planning lawyer working on tax transactions for Warren Buffett, but I didn't know how any of this applied to the reality of little old me. So I just listened to her. I didn't know the right questions to ask. And this, by the way, is why I created the LIFT program, right? The Legal Insurance Financial Tax Program that I created. And Carissa, I saw you asking, for those of you that bought LIFT in the past, can you be added into the new system? So if you, the best way for you to get LIFT, I believe, is through our mentorship. And Lara, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and post in the chat a link to the mentorship, as well as the code for those that are in the Financial Liberation Challenge that want to join the mentorship and get access to all of my programs, including LIFT. And so she said, you don't need to incorporate. You could be a sole proprietor. So I was. And then I made $1 million of revenue. And I ended up with a unexpected $117,000 tax bill that could have been cut in half. That $60,000, the extra that I paid in taxes in 2006, I think it was. Let's just imagine if I had invested that in Bitcoin. Probably I wouldn't have. But what would it be today? What would it be today? You know? I think something like $700,000, maybe more, maybe I'd be a billionaire. I don't know. What would six, yeah, I think I'd be a billionaire if I had taken that $60,000 in 2012 or whenever it first came out, 2011, and put it into Bitcoin. So you don't want to just listen to your CPA, right? You want to actually become your own best advisor when it comes to these matters. And what I ultimately learned is that I ended up getting audited for 2005, the last year that I was a sole proprietor. And that audit letter came in 2007. And I later found out that you're actually 9 times more likely. That's true, Jason. You wouldn't be chatting with me right now. You're absolutely right. It's true. I wouldn't have done any of the stuff I did if I had put that in Bitcoin. You're right. So yay for that tax bill. So I got audited in 2007 for that last year that I was a sole proprietor. And I later found out they're actually 7 times more likely to be audited as a sole proprietor than when you set up a business entity. And of course, the sole proprietorship doesn't have the asset protection. Now, Brian is right. You should have insurance. right? Insurance is always the first line of defense, and that's the second part of lift, I. Right? So legal is your legal entity. It is your intellectual property protection. It is your legal agreements. And I have a 20-point assessment that I would love for you to take so that you can identify your own understanding of your legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems and the application of those systems. So let's go ahead and put that in the chat as well, the link to the 20-point assessment that we've created so you can assess your own knowledge and application. And then you can begin to look at, okay, where do I need to fill holes in my own legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems? Okay. And great. So we've got the quiz there, the lift assessment quiz there for you. And you could take the assessment and identify, do I have the right legal structures? Do I have the right insurance foundations? Do I have the right financial systems? Do I have the right tax structures? Do I even know what those things are? And that's part of stewardship, right? It's just accepting where you are now and then making a commitment to spiral up, to learn, grow, evolve, and to spiral up. And given that this is tax planning time, and if you're in any of my programs right now, you've heard me, other than the Financial Liberation Challenge, you've heard me talking about it. This is the week for you to do your end of year tax planning. If you're going to have any profit this year, this is the time for you to identify that and start making decisions to either minimize that profit by making investments in things that you're going to use next year so that you pay less taxes come April. Or maybe you want to push off some income into next year. Or maybe you want to set up a retirement account and put some money into retirement. All of these decisions get made right now before the end of the year. All of these decisions get made right now before the end of the year. That's part of tax planning. And part of tax planning is, are you writing off everything that you can? So let's just look at whatever you paid to be in this course. Do you have the system set up for that to be a business write-off for you? If not, okay, that's just pointing to a hole. Great, you could fill that hole. Do you even know if you're going to have profit this year? If not, okay, great, there's still time to get your books updated, to find out, am I going to have profit this year, so that you can set up the infrastructure to reduce your taxes come April. If you do know that you're going to have profit this year, have you already decided what are the investments that you're going to make between now and the end of the year for things that you're going to pay for anyway? Right? Because if you could accelerate it, well, now you're going to pay less money in April. If you know you're going to do it next year anyway, just do it now if you have the cash. And then if you're like, well, I don't know if I have the cash. Okay, so that says that you just need to be a better steward of what you have. Because as soon as you become a better steward of what you have, everything that you need shows up to support you to create what you want. And yes, that might come through needing to ask a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a friend for support. You might be at that stage in your life. And Jason, I love that you're saying, I think we can depreciate jets 100% in year one now. You know what you can also depreciate 100% in year one is Sprinter vans. And so that was the other thing that I did, was I realized I have to own something. I didn't own anything. And I really felt like I needed to own something. And so I asked my mom if she would finance me a Sprinter van, because she could get financing through Mercedes at 0%. I would make the payment. it was a $7.99 a month payment. I would make the payment, and then I would save up the cash to build it out. So that way, if all else failed and I needed to be homeless for some reason, because I had that, right? How many of you had that? Have that? They call it like bag lady syndrome or homeless guy syndrome, where you're like certain that any day now you're going to be homeless. It's an intrusive thought that runs, right? So some of us have that. I had that for a long time. Yeah. It's an inherited thing. It's in our epigenetics. It's a deep, deep, deep insecurity. And for those of you that don't have it, please just have compassion for those of us that do and be grateful that you don't have that, because it's really can be really debilitating. And so when you have that, you need to go do the financial liberation meditation. And you need to do that part of the meditation that reminds you that all your needs are met. And it also could be really valuable. Jason, you totally have it. You totally have it. I see you say things that have me know that you have this. And the thing to do with it is to remind yourself that you have so much value to bring to the world. You have so much value to bring to the world that you're going to keep bringing to the world, and the world is going to show up with the resources that you need, because you're going to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. So back then in 2017, 2018, I was like, I really need to own something, because if everything, goes to shit, basically, I need to know that I have somewhere to live. And if it's going to be in a van down by the river, I want it to be a nice van. So I built out my van. I built out my Sprinter van, and I did it in a year where, even though my mom financed it and I was only paying $7.99 a month, I was able to write off 100% of it against my taxes because of the 179 deduction. And that was great, because I think it was probably like a $60,000 deduction in that year. Okay. And so this is the way that you begin to plan, right? Otherwise, I would have had 60,000 more income in that year. And let's say that I was at even a 30% tax rate with state income taxes and federal taxes and FICA and all of that. That could have been $15,000 of taxes, $20,000 of taxes. But instead, I ended up with a Sprinter van. And this is the time for you all to be thinking about that right now. This is part of your stewardship. So, do you know what your profits are going to be this year? So I wrote off the Sprinter van because I was working with my CPA, and there's you can all Sophia, I don't know if you file taxes in the US, but if you have profits this year, okay, so if you have profits this year, that's the starting place. Is you've got to be looking at, do you have profits this year? So if you know your revenue, that is how much you brought in. Now you need to know, what are your expenses? And do you have enough expenses to zero out or even make you negative for the year or not? So if you know your top line revenue, how much did you collect? How much did you bring in? And then you know your expenses, whatever's left is either a profit or a loss. And so if you can be so negative, then you don't need to accelerate any expenses. Your losses will carry forward. You can take them against income next year. And yeah, if you haven't reconciled your QuickBooks account at all this year, now is the time to do it. Ideally with a bookkeeper, and have a bookkeeper do it and not you. And so, Sophia, when I see that you say, I guess I just don't know where I can write it off, I see. I think what you're probably saying is you don't know how you can justify it as a business expense. Yeah. So that's where you get creative. That's where you get creative, right? Your mobile office is going to be amazing, especially because you, Sophia, are somebody who needs to travel to festivals every summer to be able to perform at these festivals. And there's certainly things that you are doing in your office at these festivals with the people that you're meeting there that is for your business. I have no doubt about that. Okay, I have no doubt about that. So, what you're going to do is really understand the tax code and what you can write off and how, and this is part of your business artistry, and how you categorize specific things so that in the event that you were to get audited, you could say, yeah, this is what this was for. Of course, yes, this is what the business is. This is what it does, and this is how I use this. And you could say that with absolute clarity and conviction. The absolute clarity and conviction. Now, you need to know the tax rules, right? So 179, section 179 is the tax code provision that allows you to write off vehicles over us that meet certain criteria. Vehicles that meet certain criteria. And your accountant may or may not help you with this. Your accountant may or may not help you with this because accountants are not paid to help you take risks. Your accountant is paid to help you follow the rules. And so it's really critical that you become your own best advisor. It's really critical that you become your own best advisor. What I will say is that for those of you that want my support with looking at all of this at like a coaching level, and you know that you're going to have profits this year, one of the best places that you could put your profits is in the VIP offer. There's 10 spots left, I believe. And join me. I put the link here next week on these live calls when I can actually go in depth with you, plus in the WhatsApp group that we just launched. The WhatsApp group, we're going to use WhatsApp for the VIP. The WhatsApp group, we decided to use WhatsApp because people are on WhatsApp instead of Telegram. Although now I realize why people use Telegram. People use Telegram because when you come in later, you get all the past messages, whereas with WhatsApp, you don't. And so, but we are using the WhatsApp because people are on WhatsApp. So maybe we'll change that in the future. But when you join VIP, you'll be in this WhatsApp group where you can ask questions like this, and I will give you direct answers and work with you on these things that we need to go deeper on, where I'm not just teaching, I'm working with you directly. And so I put the link here to the VIP in the chat, eyeswideopenlife.com/VIP. In fact, why don't we make this the time that we do the draw, right? Because some of you entered into a draw to be part of the VIP. And we're going to do the draw actually right now so that the rest of you who did not get into the draw or who did not win, the VIP can go ahead and get enrolled if you know that you want my support, you know, my deeper support on things like this. So Lara, you've put all of the names of the people that we gathered who tagged me on Facebook or on Instagram with your insights from the Financial Liberation Challenge. And so go ahead and let me know who is our winner. I know you've got a little tool on your computer that's going to
Yes.
draw.
Yes, let's spin the wheel and
Spin the
see who the
wheel.
winner is.
and we'll announce the winner. And then I do have about 30 minutes more of teaching for today.
And the winner
The
is
winner is, we need a little drum
Angel
roll.
Hartwell.
Angel Hartwell. Wow.
So
Angel.
deserving.
Maybe we need, well, Angel just that Angel is already one of my best students by far, shows up for everything. So Angel, congratulations. You're also going to be showing up for this, for the VIP. So I'm so happy that that's the case. Congratulations. And I don't know if Lara did a thing where she like put the more number of times you posted about something, the more entries you got. But if so, that might make sense that Angel was our winner. So Angel, thank you for sharing my work, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the WhatsApp group and on the calls next week. Okay. So all that to be said, if you know that you want the deeper dive support where I can actually work with you on these pieces, please go ahead and join us in the VIP program. So stewardship is these pieces of your legal structure, protecting your intellectual property in the right way, which, by the way, I have struggled with a lot. And because I've struggled with it, and like, oh, intellectual property should be like free for everybody to use, right? But then I didn't properly protect my intellectual property. And then things that I created got taken and they got used in ways that I did not align with. And then I realized, oh, I see. Protecting intellectual property is very specifically for the purpose of ensuring that the things that we create are used in alignment with the way that we intended. Integrity, yes, it is about integrity. And you don't have to be somebody who, protects your intellectual property in a way that's extractive. You can protect your intellectual property in a way that's regenerative. And agreements, legal agreements. I used to think legal agreements were just for people that couldn't trust each other. And I only wanted to do business with people I could trust. And then I realized that that kind of thinking was just getting me into relationship conflicts again and again and again, because two well-meaning people could have great intentions but mean very different things, and you don't know that until it's on paper and you're in the agreement process. And so the agreement process is what it's about. It's less about the form of the agreement and more about the agreement process and what did it take to get to that agreement and how did you get into alignment and can you read the agreement and understand it? So if you're working with a lawyer who gives you an agreement and you do not know what it says, well, don't sign that and hold your lawyer to a higher standard of doing better, of creating legal agreements that anybody could understand, because that's what makes sure that the legal agreement will work when it's needed. Because if you have to rely on a legal agreement, it's because things went awry. And it's because you meant different things. And now we need to turn to the agreement to understand, what did we mean here? And if it's not clear from the agreement, now we have to get into a third party telling us what it meant. That's right, Brian. And make sure that the lawyer understands and can explain all the clauses. Often they cannot. It's true. Often they cannot. Make sure that you understand. Make sure that you understand everything that's in the agreement. Right? Because if you can, then anybody can. And then on the insurance side, I think that one of the best ways for you to really be able to live the money map, where you don't need to be hoarding your resources, is to have the right kind of insurance. So let's imagine that you're worried about running out of money because you get sick and can't work and earn money. There's insurance for that. Disability insurance, long-term care insurance. And if you look into these resources now and then build in enough earning now to pay for those resources, you build that into your minimum to be of service or your preferred if you could afford it numbers. Now, in order to build that in, you need to know what it costs. Meaning you need to talk to your insurance agent, find out. What does it cost for me to have disability insurance? What does it cost for me to have long-term care insurance? Long-term care insurance can be very expensive and hard to get. Absolutely, especially if you're outside of your 50s. It can be very expensive and hard to get. So then you want to start looking at, okay, what if I can't earn money and I can't care for myself? So this is called estate planning. And every single one of you needs to do it. This is why we train personal family lawyer firm leaders. I have a training actually coming up in on Thursday. Will be my next training on estate planning, my estate planning masterclass. And so if you'd love to join the estate planning masterclass, it will be at 6 o'clock Mountain, so 5 Pacific. And you can learn all about estate planning on that masterclass and how to work with the right kind of a lawyer and even get us to match you with a lawyer and get $1,000 of legal services. So we can post a link to that in the school program. And so then you need to create financial systems, really to be looking at what you have and to be looking at what you have in a way where you're not looking at your bank account to determine what you have. Where you're not looking in your bank account. Actually, you can all actually go register for it. I remembered, I know the link. It's pfl.training. And if you register for it, we'll send you the recording. So if you are managing your financials by looking in your bank to see what you have, or looking in your investment account to see what you have, or looking in your retirement account to see what you have, and you're doing it at all sorts of random hours, times of the day, that is not being a good steward of your resources. Being a good steward of your resources means that you're looking at what you have, what you need, and how to manage and invest your resources. That's what makes you a good steward. So what should those rhythms, flows, systems, and structures look like in my book? So in my book, the rhythms, flows, systems, and structures are based on what I call a practical magic operating system that begins with weekly time management. Plan your week every Monday morning. We do this together as a community. It looks like a weekly financial review. Every week, it's on your calendar. It's during the day, probably on a Monday. It could be on a Friday. And on that weekly financial review, you are going to look at what you have. And you're going to look at your day-to-day cash flow forecast that ideally goes 90 days out into the future to show you if and when you're going to run out of money. Because if you're in business for yourself, you're always going to run out of money. If you have a job and you lost your job, eventually you would run out of money. So we don't want to be afraid of running out of money. We want to know when it's going to happen. Otherwise, it's running here in the background. You're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of money. Yes, you will if you don't sell things and you're in business, or if you lose your job and you have a job, you will run out of money. Of course, because you'll keep spending money, but you will not have more money coming in. Eventually, you'll run out of money. I want you to look at that eyes wide open every week. I did this with a weekly financial analysis that I eventually was able to have my financial management, my bookkeeping team create for me and send to me every Monday. How much is in the bank? What's going out? What's expected to come in? And I had them create me a spreadsheet, a cash flow forecast that would map it out on a day-by-day basis and show me. So I could scroll all the way to the right and see when I was going to run out of money. Because then I didn't have to worry about when I was going to run out of money. I just knew when I was going to run out of money, and I wouldn't be able to take action before I ran out of money. So I didn't have to worry about it anymore. You might be worried about running out of money because you have not actually looked at when you will run out of money, and then come up with a plan for what are you going to do before that. So I just want to pause for a moment and be in the curiosity with you of what would be different for you if you knew at all times exactly when you were going to run out of money. So now, instead of having the, oh my God, I'm going to run out of money in the background, what would you do with that energy? What would you do with that energy? Yeah, you would come up with an action plan. You'd make more money. You'd be of more service. Yeah, you would plan and do an inventory of what you could do, but instead you would breathe. Yeah, you would breathe. Instead, what you're doing is all that energy that would go to figuring out how to make more money or planning and coming up with an action plan is going to, oh my God, I'm gonna run out of money, I'm gonna run out of money, I'm gonna run out of money, I'm gonna run out of money. Not valuable. So I want you to have a time where every Monday you look to see when are you going to run out of money. Don't hide from it. Just look at it. When am I going to run out of money? And never, ever, 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 ever look at it after dark. Just don't look at it after dark. Just make a rule. Just make a discipline. Just don't. Once the sun goes down, I recommend you do not talk about money unless it's with a client that's going to hire you or paying you. And for some reason they need to do it at night, but really try not to even do that. Yeah, it just gets into your brain and keeps you awake. Or wake you up in the middle of the night. You need sleep. Yeah, Stuart, yeah, and you might say, or on Fridays, so that your weekend is clear, unless you want to use your weekend for creative, motivated time of how am I going to make money, which is sometimes a thing that you need to do, right? Sometimes it's a thing that you need to do. You might be at a phase of your life and business where weekends have to be in the question of, okay, how am I going to change things? Because every day during the week, I'm working and I'm just getting by, and I need to use my weekends to like start to look at how I'm going to change things. Then Fridays can be a great time to look at that. But Mondays are also really good. So every week I would get a weekly financial analysis. Here's how much you have in every bank account in every business, because I had multiple businesses. Here's how much you have, and they were separate for each business. Here's how much you have, here's how much is going out, here's how much is expected to come in, and here's when you're going to run out of money. And it was okay that I was going to run out of money because I had time to plan and I didn't have to have the drain of wondering. So that's weekly. And then monthly, you are going to meet with your bookkeeper. And you're going to look at your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet for the current reality and the 2 months prior. So every month you're looking backwards. And then every quarter you're going to look forwards and you're going to plan with a strategic action plan for the quarter. And then every year you're going to look 3 years into the future. We do this with Practical Magic, and you'll all be invited to the Practical Magic workshop. We haven't decided the dates yet, but it'll be in January. Strong recommend that you get there. It's a 3-year strategic vision planning process that is going to really just help you get so clear for the next 3 years. And then how do you walk that back to a year from now? And how do you walk that back to 90 days from now? Okay. And so ideally, you're doing that every year and you're bringing a piece of that into every quarter. And then you're bringing your profit and loss and your look back into every month. And you're not waiting to reconcile your books for every year. You're doing it on a monthly basis. It's November now, so like in a week from now, you should be meeting with your bookkeeper about your October books. And you would compare your October books to your September and August books. And if you haven't done that yet, you don't beat yourself up. You just decide that this is the year you're going to do it. This is the year you're going to do it. And then finally, taxes, T. And being a good steward is really understanding how to save money on your taxes so that you're directing where your resources go. And as we've already talked about, the biggest way that you all are going to do that, some of you may be able to use complex tax structuring if you're making 7 figures already. But if you're not, then really the simplest thing is to be very proactive with your business expenses. Very proactive with your business expenses. And recognize that the government is subsidizing your investments in anything that you can make a case is for your business. Okay. And so, for example, we've got a program in New Law called Advanced Growth Mastermind. And we take everybody to Costa Rica. So that is a business trip that gets written off. And yeah, Angel's business rented a whole house. My business rents a whole house as well. My business, of course, pays for my office in Costa Rica. And so you just want to look at all of the places that you can have what one of my mentors is referring to as work-life mesh. This is not about work-life balance. It's work-life mesh. Where can your work and your life mesh in such a way where, oh, yes, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and that's business because we're in business together. You know, we've got our whole team coming for annual planning, I think next week, and it's going to be fun. And it's a business expense. I'm going to take them all to dinner and it's going to be amazing. And it's a business expense. So how does work-life mesh begin to look for you, right? And how do you maximize that? And how do you not wait for your accountant who does not have an incentive to help you with this? But you become your own best advisor on this. You become the business artist on this. It's one of the things I would say that I help with the most in Well, I don't know if that's true about Eyes Wide Open, the mentorship, but it is certainly this time of the year one of the things that I feel like I help with the most because on every call we're looking at it. Every call we're looking at, okay, it's this is the time, tax planning time. Make sure you're doing it. Why? Because I missed it. So many years I missed it. I was just too busy. I just missed the opportunities. I don't want you to miss the opportunities. Okay. Stewardship. The last piece of stewardship is investing outside of your business, right? So you might say, well, I don't have a business, I have a job. My face is frozen here with a very funny look. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm back. You might say, I have a job. And I want to encourage you to look at, could you also have a business? Even if just for the tax purposes, could you also have a business where you could utilize some of these tax benefits, where you could utilize business credit at 0%? What would you invest in? Where you could begin to build this cash generating machine that you can count on no matter what. And maybe it's just a little thing right now, but ultimately has the opportunity to become something bigger. And then once you have that, now, and let's just look at that for a minute. You want to invest in that which can never be taken from you. First and foremost, that's community, creativity, and your own resourcefulness. You investing in your community, your creativity, and your resourcefulness is your best investment. Never, it can never be taken. It doesn't matter what happens in the economy, inflation, debt crisis, taxes, community, creativity, resourcefulness will always be yours, and you can pass it down to the next generation completely tax-free. Then your own cash generating machine. These have to be your primary investments before you invest in anything else, like the stock market, like cryptocurrency. Because those things, while they might have great returns over time, are completely outside of your control. And so if you think of it through a permaculture lens, permaculture is a system of design that is based in, I would say, regenerative systems. We've in the past thought it only applies to agriculture, but it doesn't. It applies to the design of everything. And so in permaculture, you want to keep the things that you're going to use on a daily basis close to you and put the things that you're going to use less often farther away. So think of it this way. Your herb garden that you're going to go get herbs for your kitchen shouldn't be across the back 40. Your herb garden is in your windowsill. So then you go get the herbs and you put them in the food that you're making. But if there's things that you're canning and putting up for next year, you don't need those in your windowsill. They can be in the back 40 or maybe even down the road. So you want to think about money in the same way. What are you going to need to use immediately? Some amount of cash in your house. I recommend anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000 cash in your house. Small bills. You could spend it easily if you needed to, right? The internet goes out. You're in some sort of storm. Believe me, the people in Jamaica right now are all wishing they had some cash money and gas. Cash money and gasoline. So how do you store, the right amount of cash money and gasoline, energy, solar power? Do you have batteries? Do you have backup batteries? Do you have food stores? Do you have a way to keep those food stores cold? Do you have clean water? To me, all of that comes before an emergency fund. But then the next amount would be an emergency fund in the bank. Liquid, you can get access to it. And that can be 1 month to a year, depending on how fast you could earn money again if your current way of earning money just all of a sudden stopped. How fast could you get a job? How fast could you sell something to get money if you needed to? That's what will determine how long you need 1 to 12 months of emergency money, cash. Relationships. How are you investing in your relationships? With your children? With people that will take care of your children? With people in your community? You know, I invest in my local farmers. Why? Because I want to know that we have food sovereignty no matter what happens. And I don't know how to grow food, but they do. And that's a relationship that I consciously and intentionally invest in. Estate planning. Estate planning. Making sure that you have done everything that you can to leave behind everything that you have in a way that won't leave a big stinky pile of mess for the people that you love. That happens through life insurance and estate planning. But it doesn't really make sense for you to have life insurance and estate planning. Well, I think it always makes sense for you to have life insurance and estate planning of the right kind, right? Of the right kind. But I would recommend that you have that, cash in your house. Maybe that's, priority. And life insurance and estate planning, though, does come before real estate. Owning real estate. Private investments. Crypto investments. Investments in the public markets. That's the order in which you invest. And yet, what do we see? How many of you are invested in the public markets in crypto and you don't have a pile of cash in your house and you don't have your estate planning done? So we want to reprioritize so that we're good stewards. We're good stewards for ourselves and the people that we love. And remember, if you have not yet built your consistent, values-aligned generating machine, then that's the first investment. That's the first investment. And then for those of you that are in VIP, I have invited one of my favorite investment gals, Kristen Wanch, to walk you through a live portfolio review. And we're going to be doing that together next Monday. And then you will have a live coaching call with me, small group, maybe somewhere between 5 and 30 people will be there. And you'll be able to get all of your questions answered. I'll be able to work with you directly on what is the next stage of your journey to financial liberation. If it's generate, what is your revenue model? If it is steward, how do we need to make those decisions of where you're focusing on the stewardship? How can we make better tax decisions? For example, that might be one of the things that you want to talk with me about. If it is, it's really going to be one of those two things, right? It's going to be that you are either needing to get clear as you're really needing to get clear on your next stage of generation and what that looks like in your business model, your revenue model, application of the entrepreneurial archetype, and how do we structure that? Or you need to steward better, and then we can talk about what that looks like. If you know that you want to join VIP and you cannot do it right now, or you just want some more support with that decision, you can just message me in school, or you can just join. We have 10 spots that are left. And for those of you that are already in, you're going to be getting an invite to the WhatsApp group, I think right after this call. And then you'll get details about the calls next week. Of course, they'll be recorded. Your homework for the stewardship model, and we'll be back together in 2 weeks. on my birthday. So you have plenty of time now to get caught up and to get your minimum to thrive money map number, to use the wealth credit and liquidity assessment to look at what you have, to be auditing your time, energy, and attention leaks from your time tracking. And I just want to show you something on the money map tool because we had a big update and I'm really excited about it. Okay. So this is the last page of the money map tool now. And it is going to give you your minimum of service preferred and no limits. Oh, what happened? Maybe this is the old one. Hold on one second. That's what it used to look like. But we upgraded it. Okay, great. Now here's what it looks like. So it is going to tell you where it says wage here. This is what we call your money map hourly number. And it is the minimum that you need to be earning on an hourly basis for each hour of service that you deliver. Not because you charge hourly. In fact, I never want you to charge hourly. I don't even want you to charge by the session, by the week, the month. I want you to charge for an outcome. But when you are structuring your package that includes that outcome, you need to measure the number of hours of yours that goes into the package. And then you need to make sure that the value that you're receiving for each hour is not less than your money map hourly number. Okay? So if you have questions about that, you can ask the questions about that in school, or we can work together with structuring your package on that VIP call, on a VIP call together, where we can look at, okay, how do we structure your packages? I know, Angel, it's so good. It's really, really, really good. The money map is getting really great. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I would love, before you go, let me just have a one-word checkout on what are you feeling right now. Give me some sensation or experience you're having, maybe even a thought loop. Yes, angel winning is right for you. Or it could be like a thought loop you're having, or it could just be a one word, just something. As you check out, beautiful. Thank you. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a positive word, right? So yeah, it could be a word like overwhelmed. And if that's the case, then I want you to come share about that overwhelm in school, or reflective. Come share about that in school. Come share about it in the community. Let us hear what are you reflecting on? What is having you feel overwhelmed? And energized, reflective, clear, pathways, clarity. I love that, Madeline. Thank you. This has been incredible. You've never taught about stewardship in this manner. It's a game changer. I'm so glad you feel that way. I love that so much. So for those of you that are in that place of overwhelm or reflective, your only job is to, actually, here's what I'm going to recommend. We do this and plan your week every week. Make a list of everything in your brain. Get it out on paper where you can look at it. Get it on paper where you can look at it, because overwhelm often happens where we're trying to hold too much in our brains. And when we're trying to hold too much in our brains, that's what happens to me. It's like I'm trying to hold too much in my brain, and I get really tired, and I'm like, and that's usually some kind of a trauma response. And so your job is to actually get it all out of your brain. I want you to write it all down. And then just pick one thing that you're going to focus on and potentially calendar out the rest. You could put the rest on the calendar for some point in the future to think about, but just get clear about what is just the next thing. Just the next thing. Just the next thing. and just the next thing, because that's part of stewarding your energy and attention. Yeah, baby steps. And if you just took a single baby step every single day, then you would have taken 365 baby steps, and that is going to make one huge leap, even potentially a quantum leap. If you don't know what your next step is, write it all out and then come on into the chat. Come on into the chat in school and share about it. Sometimes just writing about it can bring you so much clarity. All right. Thank you all so very much. And Donna, please message me about this in school so we can follow up on that. And I will look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. So there's plenty of time to catch up. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. It's been my absolute pleasure and joy already. Thank you. And I know Lara likes to unmute so that everybody could say goodbye. So Lara, lead us in our goodbye.
Amazing. So yes, I
Thank
just
you.
have to walk
Bye.
through.
Thank you, thank you,
Bye-bye,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, Allie.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.